people who've had sex with their significant other, their ex, or a friend's parent. How the hell did you get to that point? What happened after? Story 1. In my late 20s, I had a close friend who lived in a small mountain town in the western U.S. His mom had recently gone through a separation and had come to stay with him. She was a bit flirty with me, but nothing alarming. Then a job change meant that I had to move to a city 90 miles south. My friend came down on the weekends to party a few times, and I thought nothing of it. Until one night, he arrived with his mother in tow. What ensued was a late-night F-fest at her request while my buddy was passed out in the next room. It was a major violation of the bro code on my part, but she had asked so nicely. Needless to say, our friendship was never the same after that. Story 2. I will never forget the night my brother found out his best friend from high school was dating his mother. When the words were uttered, a heated argument ensued, with my brother's friend quickly making his way to his car. However, my brother would not let him get away that easily, and with a single powerful punch, he sent his friend flying out of the driver's side window, leaving him in a state of unconsciousness. Story 3. My friend's life was turned upside down when, at the age of 17, she found out her boyfriend was sexting her 40-something-year-old mother, an action that resulted in her mom's divorce from her stepfather. Even after a decade, the relationship between my friend and her mom remains strained, something she will never be able to get over. Although she still maintains a good rapport with her ex-stepfather, her mother's repulsive habits of preying on her daughter's loved ones will always remain repugnant. To this day, her mother continues to date men her own age. Story 4. My childhood friend and I hadn't seen each other in years, so when I visited my hometown and we met up, I had no idea who his father was. But I soon found out when he messaged me on a gay hookup app. It was a small country town, so there wasn't much else to do other than have sex, do drugs, or try and get out of there. He didn't recognize me since I had changed so much since I was a kid, and so I figured, why not? The sex was great, but the whole time I was thinking, this is my friend's dad. He drove me to school when I was a kid. Afterwards, I felt a strange mix of pleasure and embarrassment. It was almost too weird to believe. I'm glad my friend doesn't know about this. I don't talk to him anymore, and it would be really weird if I tried to explain how his dad jackhammered my prostate. Story 5. I was at a party with a friend, and he introduced me to a young woman who was a few years older than me. We had an instant connection, and she told me about her relationship with my friend and how he often came over to hang out with her and her mom. Unfortunately, one day she came home early to find my friend in a compromising situation with her mom. Needless to say, our budding romance was over, and my friend has since become heavily involved with the church. Story 6. At the graduation party of a friend of mine, chaos quickly ensued when his parents, who were known to be wealthy, walked in on his mom in a rather compromising position with an older student who had already graduated. My friend's dad was livid, and the older student hit my friend before fleeing the scene. Word around school was that his mom went on to sleep with another student we knew a few years later, and they eventually divorced. It was a wild night, but I'll never forget it. Story 7. After 3 years of dating, my relationship with my ex came to an end, though it was amicable. During the last 7 months that we were together, I had recently graduated and was staying with her and her single mom. The two of them never got along very well, as her mother was always putting on a show trying to get attention. One night, as my ex was out working, I was in our bedroom watching a movie when her mom came in and laid down next to me. Flirting ensued, and at one point, she got up by sliding her body over the top of mine. It was clear what she was hinting at. After we broke up, I moved out soon after finding a job, but I still kept in touch with them both. Her mom made it very clear that I was welcome to stay with her, even without my ex there. The thought of it was tempting, especially since her mom was very attractive. But I was worried that my ex would find out, and I didn't want to hurt her like that. Story 8. For almost 3 years, I had a tumultuous relationship with my friend's dad. I was 17 and he was in his mid-40s, though I'm not exactly sure of his age. I was a guy and he was married to a woman, so we kept our affair hidden from the world for a variety of reasons. His house was just down the street from my parents, so it was easy for us to arrange meetings. My friend and I weren't particularly close, and to my knowledge, no one ever found out. I ended things when I was around 20 because the guilt had become too much for me. A year later, he called me to tell me that his wife had cheated on him and that he was getting divorced. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony of it all. He wanted me to be a support system for him and perhaps even rekindle our relationship, but I shut him down immediately. Now I'm nearly 30 and haven't heard from him in years, but my parents have seen him around town. Apparently, he's openly gay now, and I'm glad that after all these years, he finally feels comfortable in his own skin. Story 9. I had a good friend since middle school with whom I was sharing an apartment. Her mom came over to stay for a while to help her daughter with an addiction issue. During her stay, we had a glass of wine, and I told her how in high school, many guys came over to hang out with us because she, the mom, was cool but also a bit of a cougar. She replied that she liked when I visited because I was cute. At the time, I was 21 and she was 44. Things went on, and we ended up dating for 3 months and having quite the adventure. My friend, her daughter, liked me enough to approve, and her mother was really enjoyable to be around. That experience really set the bar when it came to maturity and gave me an idea of what a stable relationship should look like. It also taught me the importance of open communication and of enjoying yourself in the bedroom. Those two aspects were hard to find in women my age at the time. Story 10. One day, my regular workout at the apartment complex gym took a very interesting turn. As I was pumping iron alone, I noticed an attractive woman in her mid to late 30s using the treadmill. She eventually approached me and asked me to show her how to use the other machines. We exchanged phone numbers, and before I knew it, we were seeing each other. I would always go to her place at the same time, and one day, as we were locking lips on her doorstep, I heard a loud, "What the F?" I whipped my head around to see my ex-girlfriend from my sophomore year and a good friend from high school standing there in shock. I quickly put two and two together and left with my buddy shaking his head and smiling. We kept seeing each other for a while, but my mom may have been a bit more talented in the dating game. Story 11. When I first moved to the town I still live in, I quickly discovered the dynamics among a clique of 18 to 20-year-olds. The majority of the guys had a crush on the same girl, a Lolita type whom I didn't find attractive. The most peculiar part of the story, however, was that one of the boys was in a relationship with her mother, who was in her mid-30s and not particularly alluring. It seemed to me that she had taken advantage of her daughter's popularity to manipulate one of the boys into something more than a game of attraction and rejection. I thought it was sick. Although I don't have a problem with age gaps, I cannot tolerate manipulation. Decades later, the guy became a failed pickup artist, one of the most pitiable forms of laurels. Perhaps, had he not been caught in the trap of a manipulative cougar in his youth, his later love life could have ended differently. Story 12. When I was 17, the summer after high school had just begun, and I was hanging out with a couple of brothers at their house. Their mother, Sherry, was around 40 and recently divorced. She was really cool and allowed us to party there, which was great as it provided us with a safe place to smoke weed and drink beer. One night, I got pretty buzzed, and Sherry suggested that I stay over and not drive. She even called my mom to ask her permission. Later that evening, she showed me to bed. After a while, she returned to the room, and we ended up having sex. At that time, I thought it was great. Afterwards, I started to worry that her sons, who were huge football players, might have known what was going on since it was in their mother's bedroom. I thought that if it ever got out, they might kill me. So I stopped partying at their house. However, I will never forget Sherry. Story 13. When I began university, I found my way to a swing club, where I encountered a number of older individuals. After joining a study group and going to one of their houses to study, I couldn't help but feel that I had previously been at the swingers club with their mother. I'm almost certain that was the case, but I'm not about to bring it up. She may not even remember me, and I could be wrong, so I'm just going to leave it alone.